Just a week after his inauguration, President Navroski spoke to US leader Donald Trump before the US-Russia summit about possible options for ending the war in Ukraine. All these gestures, conversations and readiness for a working visit to discuss what is happening in Poland, as well as more broadly in Europe and the world, are an expression of the United States' readiness to further strengthen its relations with Poland. The conversation with Trump was also attended by, among others, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz and the presidents of France and Ukraine, Emmanuel Macron and Vladimir Zelensky. This conversation with President Trump, in which Karol Nawrocki took an active part, was the closest equivalent to the first-class carriage of international politics. In that call were Europe's most important leaders. Donald Tusk, Poland's Prime Minister, was conspicuously absent. Before the conversation, Polish government spokesman Adam Szlapka said that Tusk would attend the conversation. Regarding tomorrow's talks, including those with US President Donald Trump, which were to be organized by German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, I wanted to ask whether Prime Minister Tusk will take part in these talks, as this information has already been reported in the foreign media. Yes. From 2 p.m., yes, Prime Minister Tusk will indeed be present at all these meetings taking place tomorrow. Tusk was absent, most likely because Donald Trump and his administration did not want him there. Just before midnight yesterday, we received information, as did our European partners, that the American side would prefer the Polish president to be present in relations with President Trump. Such insults are rare in international politics. However, Donald Tusk's poor relations with the Trump administration are hardly surprising, considering Tusk's history of lobbing the worst insults and accusations at Donald Trump, which only ended in 2024. When we talk about Tusk's relations with Donald Trump, they are not just non-existent, they are terrible, which is why Donald Trump did not want Donald Tusk in this conversation on the meeting with Putin in Alaska, instead inviting Karol Nawrocki. To understand this, we need to recall the 2023 parliamentary election campaign in Poland. Even the American press wrote about Tusk's speeches, in which he publicly insulted Donald Trump, accusing him, among other things, of being a Russian agent. Trump, his dependence on the Russian services is no longer a matter of debate. This is not my assumption. It is the result of an investigation by American intelligence. It's even possible that Trump was recruited by the Russian authorities 30 years ago. There were many more insults directed at Trump. In his book Choice, Tusk wrote, among other things, the identification with what Trump represented, despite his tax schemes, his Russian connections, and his use of the presidency for private gain, was so strong that, even when caught red-handed, he remained attractive to half of America. After Trump's victory in last year's presidential election, Tusk immediately began pretending he'd never made such comments. One time, he lied. I have never suggested anything like that. Another time, he tried to turn his defamation into a joke. Let bygones be bygones, as they say across the Atlantic. What's done is done. Tusk's closest associates have also made hateful statements about Donald Trump. Finally, I would like to ask how you see the future of the outgoing president, Donald Trump. Will he be a political and business retiree? I think he will receive political asylum in the Russian Federation and live in a villa next door to President Yanukovych. It would be the worst-case scenario for us, for our raison d'etre, if, God forbid, Donald Trump returned to power. And now Donald Trump is the President of the United States. A man like Tusk needs to somehow get by. One could say Donald Tusk at this point is completely isolated on the international stage. This was very clear during the visit of European leaders to Kiev, where he was simply marginalized, traveling in a sidecar and later not participating in any real talks with the other leaders. Tusk participating on the sidelines of serious conversations seems to be a running theme. I'm also in contact when we talk on the phone with this small group of European leaders. Donald Trump is on the other end of the line and we talk about Ukraine, sanctions, Russia. Did you exchange words during this conversation? No, I didn't. You didn't say anything to Donald Trump? No. We introduced ourselves and it's clear who was talking to whom. Okay. Meanwhile, Karol Nawrocki met Donald Trump at the White House while he was still just a presidential candidate. The US president was one of the first politicians to congratulate Navroski on winning the election, sent a delegation invitation to his inauguration ceremony and invited him to Washington. On the 3rd of September, President Karol Navroski will go on his first foreign trip to meet Donald Trump once more. Well, quoting Donald Tusk, someone has to be a serious adult, and he is serious. President Navroski is serious. He is treated seriously. He deals with serious matters, not with idiocy. Recording videos on yachts with rap music lyrics with profane language, and that's your PR, Tusk, your people, your PR geniuses. Americans listen to this and they know English. You're making Poland look ridiculous. Tusk's position is also unlikely to be strengthened by one of his government's latest ideas, a digital tax that would hit, among others, American tech giants such as Facebook and Google. The government wants it to come into force in 2027. President Karol Navroski opposes this, believing that such a measure would prompt American companies to withdraw their investments from Poland.